Hello and welcome to the Copilot Connection.
We're here to share with you all the news, insights, and capabilities of the Microsoft Copilot ecosystem from across the entire Microsoft stack. I'm Zoe Wilson and I work at Avanade in our modern work business. I'm an MVP for M365, a regional director, and a Viva Explorer.
And I'm Kevin McDonald, MVP, Viva Explorer, and the Copilot Strategy and Modern Workplace AI lead at Avanade. We'll be releasing these episodes of podcast and on YouTube with insights from experts from the community and Microsoft on all the different areas of Copilot, the impact they can make to you and your organization, what you need to do to prepare for them or start implementing now, and even how you can extend them.
So this week, we thought we'd take a bit of time just to catch up on what's been happening in the world of Copilot. I mean, it's been fairly quiet over the last few weeks. I think once we got to the end of the conference season,
Speak for yourself.
Well, I'm not talking about work. I'm talking about in the world of Copilot news.
That is true. That is true.
Yeah, I mean, lots of people have got, lots of people are taking their nice long summer vacations. So it's been a little bit of a lull. But there have been some interesting things happening, and we're expecting as we hit September that things are going to start accelerating and with lots more news and updates coming.
Yeah, because I think we've got Ignite in October, isn't it? And there's usually
November.
things. It's November, is it? Oh gosh.
Yeah, November.
I know the Scottish Summit is October, isn't it? So there's usually that kind of bump before some excitement to keep people going leading into that. So be good to see some interesting things coming out in September.
Yeah, and talking of the Scottish Summit and things that are going to start happening in autumn, let's talk a little bit about Scottish Summit.
Absolutely. And there's some exciting things. And hopefully you're listening to this before the 1st of September, because the Microsoft Technology UK Community and Partner Awards are happening. Although we do need to speak to Aaron. I think they're just doing community awards this year, aren't they?
Yeah.
Thinking that's it. We'll have to go and slap him around a bit and to remind him to update that. But there are nominations open at ukcommunityawards.co.uk, and there's categories such as Best User Group, Best Blogger, Modern Work Evangelist, Biz Apps, Community Rising Star, Communities Community Hero, and a really good award called Best Podcast on YouTube Channel. I'm saying nothing more than that, but just putting those thoughts out there to people. And the way it works, we're asking people for nominees. So Zoe and I are both part of the committee on there. We're asking people to nominate there. We're then going to assess those nominations. It's not just purely based on the number of nominations. We want to see the kind of quality that comes through. We want to see how many different people nominate from there. And when we say different people, we do mean different people. We don't want your agents that are writing things and pushing that, and I mean that agents in an automated way. And we're not talking about getting your friends and family all to copy something out from Copilot to go in there. So please, I'm happy that people go and ask people to nominate them and things like that, but make it interesting. Share a good reason. Don't just send the same thing again and again and again, because it doesn't really help. Trust me.
Yeah. I mean, to the point where if it's obvious that someone's cheating, we will disqualify them. Having repeated nominations from very similar names with the same chat GPT generated text used in every one of them is it's not in the spirit of the community awards.
Sorry. I said Copilot. I fitted on brands there, not GPT stuff today. Thank you.
Yeah. One other thing I'd like to call out as well, actually, I having worked in the Microsoft partner space for quite some time, I feel like this is fairly obvious to me, but just for those people who maybe aren't in the partner space, I want to be really clear that when we say modern work evangelist, what we are asking for is people who sit in that M365, the modern work, Windows, Copilot for M365, Viva, Teams Voice, all that stuff that's in that Microsoft 365.
Intune and stuff like that will come into that as well, won't it? Yeah.
Yeah, not just people who are doing good things about, working in a modern way or anything like that. And then likewise, business applications, that's specifically tied to Dynamics and Power Platform. It's not people who are doing stuff with apps that are used in business, because we saw this last year, and we've also seen it a little bit this year as well, where we're getting people who work with biz apps technologies who are being nominated for the modern worker category and the other way around.
Yeah, exactly. And there's only so many categories we can see Chris Huntingford in before we get pissed off. So that's the reality.
I mean, Chris Huntingford's an interesting one, because he's actually he's in the process of actually skilling up in that modern work area at the moment.
Yes,
So he could be coming for multiple ones.
I know we've been talking about getting on the show, but I was having a lovely chat with him today about responsible AI, and he's doing a lot in that space. So it'd be good to get him on to talk about that as well. It's almost like that boy can't sit still. Anyway,
talking of Huntingford, of Huntingford, that's a nice segue into our next
all
topic.
into the segues today. This is great.
So at Scottish Summit, Kevin and I are going to be hosting a fantastic session with some awesome special guests, where we're intending to ask them lots of really hard questions about Copilot, about how people should understand the difference, how they should use them.
Oh, is that what we're going to do? We need to think about that, actually. I was thinking this. But yeah, I think we're looking to cut across all the different Copilots and take some questions from the audience as well. So if you are up at Scottish Summit, make sure you're there for that session. I mean, just the people in there will be fabulous, but it will have a lot of information as well, and we'll make sure we let them shine for that.
Yeah. So for those who can't see the screen, who are just listening, we've got our special guests are Chris Huntingford, Donna Sarker, which is it will be absolutely fantastic to have her on the panel. We've got Jose Pinos, who comes from that security angle.
Just quickly, assuming Donna doesn't get arrested first, then she'll
as long as Donna's not in jail. Yeah. And then Sarah Fenner as well. So this is going to be a really great panel. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, no, it'll be a lot of fun. And you're keeping yourself busy ahead of that as well. You've got a webinar coming up with Luke Evans.
Yeah, that's right. So I think it was September last year, Luke and I did preparing for Copilot for Microsoft 365 webinar for Syskit. They've kindly invited us back. So on the 5th, I think it is, on the 5th of September, Luke and I are going to be talking about what we've learned after 1 year. We'll put the link in the show notes if you want to register. This is going to be a lot of fun. I always love presenting with Luke. He was actually one of my original, I think he was the first person I ever did joint sessions with. And because we used to work together, we'd presented together a lot to clients. So we bounce off each other really well, I think. So I'm looking forward to that one.
I was just chuckling to myself because I suddenly remembered that he got a very awkward question about Copilot in Yammer last year, and the look on his face as he kind of realised all the question and had no idea it had come from me. I might try and catch him out with something else again this year. Don't tell him though. We'll see if he's listening.
Brilliant.
We've also got another thing ahead of that for anyone, we're talking about Luke and doing joint sessions there. You very kindly invited me to join you, Sarah and Luke, at the Community Day. It's something you've run a couple of times before, really to help new speakers. It's kind of a guide for people who want to get into the community, start speaking. What is it you need to do? What do you need to think about? How can you help yourself be more likely to get accepted? How can you make your actual session run even more effectively as well on there? So really looking forward to that one, and that's on September the 6th in London, in fact at the Microsoft Reactor in Paddington. So check out the show notes for the link to that, or just do a search in the communitydays.org site. And if you don't know the communitydays.org site, do check that out, because all sorts of events in there as well. But that'll be a really good day.
Yeah, I mean, I know we've done technical workshops before, Kevin, but this is actually such a rewarding workshop to deliver, to help people who, have kind of experience to share and a story, but they just don't quite know how to get started, or how to present themselves in the best way to be accepted more. And I know that people aren't doing this to become MVPs. They're doing it because they want to become more involved in the community. But one of the things that's been really rewarding to see over the last 18 months is just how many people have actually gone on to contribute to their community so much that they are actually now being recognized as MVPs.
Yeah, absolutely. We know there's a few more kind of going through that cycle as well. So it's I think it helps. And one of the things that I found in getting to an MVP is building a community of other MVPs to kind of understand what they're doing as well. So by joining this, not only speaking to us, but also the others going through that journey as well. I think you've been part of a few groups of people kind of going through the journey at the same time, and sharing that experience really helps as well. So definitely something worthwhile. It's like an antenatal class. Let's call it that. Maybe it's the anti-MVP. Actually, no, we can't say anti-MVP. That's with an E, not an I.
Yeah. So this is where we're helping new MVPs be birthed.
Exactly. Oh gosh, that's a disturbing thought. Moving swiftly on, talking of MVPs, God, this was going to be our quick bit. Since we last recorded, the MVPs have had the renewal, and I know probably lots of you go, oh gosh, that day on social media when hashtag MVP buzz is everywhere, and I'm what's the word? Not flattered and honoured.
Humbled and honoured.
Humbled and honoured, thank you.
Yeah.
On there of people all excited about that. But the reason we're pulling out this time is there's new technology areas, and the way they're kind of putting together the MVPs was still in the M365 area, but there's now a Copilot for M365 category within there. Technology area within there, and there's actually 54 different ones on there. So we've got people like Amanda Stern, who we know, and Angel, who's at Avanade with us, Alex Pierce over at Softcat, Daniel Anderson, Daniel Roque. I'm not going to go through too many more names. I'll let people who are looking on there scroll through there, but it's fantastic to see the number of people really seeing that importance of Copilot for M365 and getting engaged with there. So, and also the geographical spread of that. I think, we get the European and a lot of the US ones that we engage with a lot, but it's fantastic seeing sort of some names from Korea and things on there as well that we're not necessarily always connected with. So really, really good to see that as well. I was thinking there was 54. There's slightly more than 54.
Yeah, I think because we've had another like new MVP day as well, haven't we? So there might be some new MVPs that have bumped that number up a little bit, or people who were delayed in going through the process to make their profile public.
Yeah, so looking at, I think, around 70 MVPs come through there, which is fantastic, seeing that excitement for Copilot. But anyway, we did say we're going to cover news. We should probably go on to some specific news. And probably the dominant story that I'm assuming a lot of people have heard about, but is probably not the most positive of stories on there, has been around the Black Hat conference that took place. So it's a what's the word for it? Ethical, a cybersecurity conference, and there's a lot of talk about ethical hacking and things like that. And a company called Zenity had been doing a lot of analysis on kind of hacking into Copilot, and that sounds quite scary when you hear that. And this hit a lot of the press. I think I even saw it on BBC News. You can see this article here is from Fortune, and a lot of it was about. In fact, I'm going to jump over to the actual articles themselves. Labs.zenity.io. They've summarised a lot of their research that they published within there, and a lot of this is around kind of indirect prompt injection. So you can kind of put things into documents in certain ways that Copilot will analyze, even if the end user doesn't see them. So it's very hard to kind of defend against directly. And you will kind of say, when things like, when you read this, I want you to do these kind of things. I'm not going to read out exactly. I'll let people do a little bit of digging before they start trying to cause trouble. but a lot of it is around that. There was another hole within Copilot Studio, especially, that put this off. There was things around RAG poisoning, which is the retrieval augmented generation, which is the kind of mechanism of having your large language model and using a search vector. So with that's kind of things like Microsoft Search, Azure AI Search, or your own search components to kind of ground your information within there. By putting documents in there, you can inject unwanted items on there. And I imagine this probably scared quite a few people, especially those who are going through Copilot for M365 and Copilot Studio initiatives at the moment on there. There was another article from, I was going to say fellow MVP, but I think he handed in his MVP. He decided he didn't want to continue it. But Yuka Niranen's been around the community for a while, talking about why Copilot could be a bigger security threat than ChatGPT. I would say this is a very clickbait headline versus what he's saying on there. But what I liked from this is he raised the point that actually you shouldn't just trust Microsoft. You shouldn't just say it's Microsoft, it will be more secure. Organizations need to be asking the questions of what Microsoft is doing to make it more secure. And Microsoft is doing a lot. But that doesn't mean you say, great, they're doing a lot, I'll let them handle it on there. I've worked with a client who raised some of this kind of prompt injection as a concern a while back. And a lot of those were addressed, but I think there's different ways of doing it. So it's fantastic to see organizations challenging the big vendors, not just saying, give us new exciting stuff. We want to see you make sure that this continues to be safe as well. So while it's nerve-wracking to see this, it's much better that it's out there in the public eye and that Microsoft are making sure they give it the attention. I know since this was first announced, the issues that were identified in Copilot Studio have been addressed. So it's something to think about. I think we'll put all the links into the show notes and our newsletter on LinkedIn for people to kind of dig into themselves. I think Zenity is doing some great work, and others are looking at this, and Microsoft is working with them. They're not just trying to cause trouble. They did announce all their findings to Microsoft ahead of publishing these as well, giving the opportunity to try and fix some of these items and work around them. But it's a good reminder that while all this Copilot AI stuff is very exciting, you need to be aware of some of the risks that are coming through from that as well.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely spot on there, Kevin. I mean, I've had conversations with clients and with colleagues and with people across the community as well, actually, where there's obviously a bit because perhaps because people have perceived that, you know, this is trustworthy because it's Microsoft, there's been almost a bit of a knee-jerk reaction where there's lots of fear and uncertainty, and it's muddying the waters a little bit. So I think people need to continue to challenge the big vendors to understand how they're making their tools secure from things like this. But equally, when you get those clickbait, fear-mongering articles, and I'm not saying that the one you showed is like that, but I have seen a lot of others that are very much in that category. It's also important that people question those as well, because this is such a popular topic. It's an easy thing for people to write about, to get lots of views, to get lots of engagement. So we really need to apply critical thinking to this to actually understand, you know, what it means, what the risk is, and to understand what Microsoft are doing to address it.
What is the actual impact of that risk to your organization, the potential? You know, it's analyze these things, not just hiding it. And you will have many other risks. That this is similar to kind of a phishing attack to areas, and it's just something else to look at. And again, being out in the public eye, think about it, not just Microsoft will be looking at this. We've talked about a lot of tools. I know we had Michael Pisaric from Orchestry and spoken with AvePoint and others, many others who are looking at those governance tools to look at that. Here's an opportunity to add additional things to some of those tools to check on these. So if you don't want to just trust Microsoft, look at some of the other partners working in these areas to kind of address some of these issues as well.
Yeah,
don't spend a lot of money and then find Microsoft fixes it quickly. So it's been good both sides, I think it's fair to say. So yeah, would certainly be interested in others who've got kind of opinions on that and who've dug into it deeper. I have to admit that the kind of hacking and injection, the security side is not a deep area of expertise on mine. So I would always love to hear what others thought on that. Follow us on social media and let us know what you think.
Yeah, 100%. I have to agree. This isn't an area where I've got like a particularly deep understanding either, but obviously it's something that I think we're both watching with interest so that we can understand how to guide and advise people. So
Yeah,
definitely want your expert views.
absolutely. Should we go on to some more positive and exciting news? Before, now we've terrified people. Let's bring them back on some new stuff.
Taking
And
people on an emotional roller coaster.
absolutely up and down. Um, yeah, sorry, I got distracted there. I was thinking back to summer holidays and the actual roller coaster I went to, which was slightly terrifying as well. For anyone coming to ESPC, I'm very hoping they open Greenland's theme park that's in central Stockholm for winter, so we can all go on that. So if anyone's up for a roller coaster ride in real life and is coming to ESPC, let me know. Anyway, moving on to the virtual roller coaster of this. I guess it's kind of on the edge of Copilot because it's not directly within GitHub Copilot, but they announced, what was it, back in beginning of August, the GitHub models. And I was like, oh, this is intriguing. I have to admit, I haven't quite picked up on this one. But effectively, what it is if you've used things like Azure AI Studio or the playground in Azure OpenAI, where you can try out the models within the browser and work with them, this is effectively GitHub's version of that. And it's open to I think a limited public beta, so you can join a waiting list to try this out, and you can select different models. Like in this image, it's got the OpenAI GPT 4.0, and you can test your prompts in there. You can put different numbers of tokens, your temperature. You can apply that system prompts and work with it. I think if it's looking at this, I haven't actually been on the beta and tried this out, but looking at it, it's a bit like within the Azure Open AI Studio, where you can kind of generate code from it, so it can allow you some code to work from there. What they haven't really said is what the pricing will be. This is a public beta, so I think it's included at the moment. They've talked a lot about this being able to deploy these into code spaces, so I suspect it will link in with some kind of pricing to go with them there. But I think it's really, really interesting, and especially because a lot of people on GitHub, and this is going to sound strange to say and sacrilegious to some of us, but some of them aren't actually doing Microsoft stuff. So bringing some of these kind of Azure OpenAI, even these OpenAI models into a more accessible place within GitHub makes a lot of sense for those as well.
Yeah, I mean, I know when we were preparing for this, I mentioned this to you, Kevin, but talking with people like Yannick, when he talks about
And sorry,
Copilot in
that's
GitHub,
Yannick Riekman's.
yeah. So
Yeah.
when he talks about Copilot in GitHub, one of the things that he says is a huge benefit of it is the fact that it's in the flow of work, it's in the space where the developers are. And for me, that's a similar benefit that we see here, where it's, these tools already exist. You can already go and do this, but by bringing it into the place where the developers are spending their time, it's actually making it easier for them to find and interact with it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a great example here of running evaluations of your prompts across different models, and you can do that within GitHub Actions, which is that process of kind of publishing that through into your code, so you can automate analysis of some of your prompts and how they react in the different models. And that's not just the OpenAI ones. If people saw me scrolling there, but got ones from Meta, Mistral, AI 21, and Cohere, and I imagine they will add more and more to that list, similar to as they've been doing with the what's it called in Azure, the model as a service. So really interesting. I think those many of our listeners will be out there doing Microsoft stuff and will already be doing this in Azure, but to bring this into GitHub, I think opens it up to more people, which is really, really useful. Right, we did have some Copilot for M365 news And because we always talk about it, we kind of shuffled that down a little bit to the end, but we should certainly cover a bit of that and what's new. Was there anything, I'm going to catch you off the hoof here, were there any of these that particularly caught your eye? Sorry.
So I think the Copilot dashboard, that being available to more people, is helpful. I think this is going to be really useful for organizations who are fairly early on their journey. There's some of the things around like the adoption, so being able to enable that Copilot adoption community in Viva Engage. I know from our own journey with this and from a lot of the clients, this is kind of the approach that many organizations are taking anyway. But things like this, these are signs to me that Microsoft is trying to make it easier for clients to put the right things in place to be successful and to have the right data that they need.
Yeah, and to track how successful they are being as well. Is that?
Yeah.
I'm just reading that initial one because it's slightly confusing statement. It says the Microsoft Copilot dashboards, as part of Copilot for M365, no longer requires a Viva Insights premium license. They're rolling out to have over 100 Copilot license or 10 assigned Viva. So you don't need both. So you don't need to have the Viva Insights is a key, as long as you have at least 100 Copilot for M365 licenses within there. So you do need to have a certain number of this. This won't help people who've kind of spun up Copilot for M365 in a demo tenant or a dev one, and they're kind of just turned it on for 1 or 2 users. So there is a slight limitation, but it certainly opens it up to organizations who are engaging with Copilot for M365. I'm guessing if you only have 5 licenses, you can probably ask those 5 people what they're up to on there, and it's less of an impact. So this really is looking at more of the, I wouldn't say large organizations, but those that are kind of going ahead with Copilot who want to understand it at a broader sense within there.
Yeah. And then the other one, I might be stealing your thunder here because you might be planning to talk about this, but the other one that I thought was interesting that I've not had a chance to test yet is some of the new stuff in Outlook. So Copilot to help with emails. And one of the one thing that's mentioned here that I'm really interested in testing actually is being able to use prompts like move all emails from Kevin into a Kevin folder.
I don't know what to say about that. But yeah, really useful. I'd be intrigued to know kind of what volume this works at. I'm not going to quote how many unread emails I have on there, but even be able to mark all as read when you get to a certain size of unread emails can be quite hard to do. So if it can help with some of those things as well, be really useful within there as well. It suddenly got me thinking, one of the other things that's on the public roadmap, and I'm not going to get anyone in trouble here saying this, is the ability to run schedule prompts. So I wonder if any of these would work within the kind of Copilot app itself rather than Copilot in Outlook, whether you could do this and run that on a regular basis on there.
I'll test it. I'll test it. After we finish recording this, I'm already planning to go and test some of those other things. So let's see if I can break it or how far I can get.
Yeah, and I think what I like is, because let's be honest, it's not too hard to set up rules like move everything from a single person. But if you want to move everything that mentions any topics around this, that there's a bit vaguer, that probably if you were kind of working with an executive assistant, or maybe you've got an intern saying, can you do these things? And you're not 100% specific because it's kind of things like this. It would be very interesting to see if it can work that. So everything around projects that I'm working with this particular client, that it would identify which of those that are related to that. It'd be very interesting to see how well that's picked up. I really hope they haven't implemented the ability to delete emails like this, because that could be very nerve-wracking.
Fairly easy to make a mistake there, I think.
Yeah, I'm guessing not, but you never know with these. The other bits, I think there's some nice Viva updates, so that adoption community and the centralized comms with the Viva Amplify editor really help on there. The last one is, I love they've put improvements based on your feedback. So Microsoft's being very clear; they are listening to what needs to be on there. You know, things like better transcript management on there. I'm not going to comment too far on that because I'll get in trouble on there, but better on that, better summarization. So it kind of notes they are looking to a lot of these things and learning from what people are saying. So please do tell Microsoft what you're feeling from there. They are moving very rapidly within this, and they're going to miss things that are a priority. So make sure you're reflecting. And the reality is, if one person says it, they're not going to listen. If lots of people says it, it kind of adds to that weight. So make sure you're getting that voice out there to say that you want these features enabled as well.
Yeah, what I'd absolutely recommend that people do as well is actually use the feedback feature inside Copilot, regardless of which app you're in, what it is you're trying to do. Use the thumbs up and the thumbs down to give feedback. So if you have a really outstanding result, give it a thumbs up. Let Microsoft know that this is the kind of thing that is really impactful. And if you don't, if something doesn't work or you don't get the result that you want, make sure you give it a thumbs down, because I know that Microsoft are using that feedback extensively to determine things like how they prioritize their backlog, what things they need to fix, what things they need to make better. So if you're not already doing that, definitely start.
Yeah, absolutely agree. And I'm guessing one of those things that came up was with OneNote, which I use a lot, and I don't so much anymore. I think because I'm probably not out on the road quite as much, but I used to use my Surface or my iPads with the pen with OneNote, and I would take notes kind of in my handwriting. I find that I remember things better that way. And now Copilot supports those inked notes, which is really useful. So you can kind of do your writing, do your drawing. I know Rebecca Jackson over in Australia loves doing sort of these notes when she goes to events. She published some on our internal God, I almost said Yammer, Viva Engage site recently about a conference she'd been at. And it's those kind of things that you kind of capture quickly, but then want to remember where it is. Now you've got that ability to summarize it quickly with Copilot, which I think is really, really useful. And
yeah, so I love this. I think this is going to be fantastic. We need this in Whiteboard as well.
Yes.
Because
you know, I've things in Whiteboard, to be fair.
Yeah, I mean, so there are some things that are really useful in Whiteboard. It's a shame that the UI is still a little bit clunky or not quite as feature rich as some of the virtual Whiteboard competitors, but some of the stuff that you can do with Copilot, I think, you know, makes it worth actually using Whiteboard. But when I'm in sessions with people and they suddenly start drawing and actually writing instead of typing into sticky notes, my heart sinks a little bit, because I can't use Copilot on that. It won't read it. So yeah. we need ink to be something that Copilot can interact with in Whiteboard as well.
Absolutely agree on that. And then I think final note we got, this is more about the, I always love seeing how Microsoft tries to describe this, because Copilot's everything else here. And in this one, they're talking about the free Microsoft Copilot services on there. So what they're talking about is that kind of Copilot in Bing, Copilot in Edge. It's the web-based Copilot within there. And one of the ones they had that, hang on, let me take a breath. It was Copilot with commercial data protection, I think was the lovely phrase that they used to call it. That's now being extended not just for those who've got an M365 license, but anyone who has an Entra, Microsoft Entra. I think it's an Entra ID account. I think their marketing's missed a line there, but it's kind of extended the amount of people that can get protected by that, which means they can query that and use that in a way that will protect it and make sure that what they're writing in there will not be used to train the next generation of the models, and they won't be leaking internal information incorrectly on there. So a fairly small change, but I think a really useful one, especially organizations who've maybe got a certain amount of M365, but maybe they've got some frontline workers and they're using Entra ID to authenticate with other systems, but not necessarily giving them M365 accounts. They're now covered with that ability to use Copilot. So really nice open up. And I think it's a great way with, for frontline workers who maybe aren't on the keyboard all the time. The Microsoft Copilot works really nicely with voice. I use it to solve many an argument with the kids at the kitchen table.
Love it. I love that. I love that you're kind of developing this next generation of AI powered workforce as well.
It really is, and it's no longer Ask Siri, because that kind of brings back a load of links. They want to hear Copilot talk to it as well, and it's interesting. My 7-year-old's needs a little encouraging with writing, and he's started using Copilot to kind of get to listen to the voice and then write things down from there as well. So it's kind of helping him too, which is really good as well. I tried that. There was one other bit in this. Oh yeah, the option to pin Copilot as an app within there. I'm less sure about this one, if I'm honest, but I guess for those who don't have Copilot for M365, it does make a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's makes it a little easier for them to find it.
Yeah, even if the naming confuses people a little bit.
Yeah.
So I think good to see some news coming through over the summer.
Yeah, I mean, there's been some news. I think, like I said, I'm expecting this to start picking up as we get into September and beyond, and everyone comes back from their summer holidays. One thing we didn't write down in our planning, Kevin, but which has just occurred to me, is actually September next month. That's our 1 year anniversary, I believe, of our first episode.
Oh gosh, it is. That is very, very true. I'd forgotten about that. Feels like we'd be going for longer. Crikey.
It does. I think that's just a side effect or a symptom of the speed at which this whole Copilot world has exploded over the last year or so.
Yeah, absolutely. That'd be quite insane to go back to our early episode and see how things have changed or not.
Yeah.
As well with what we're talking about, and I think that brings. I know we've been chatting a little bit. I think we're looking to possibly in the future bring a bit more structure to some of these and kind of hit particular topics. Probably not necessarily removing some of these news and kind of general updates and interviews, but we're looking to bring people in to cover specific topics and to make sure we get that breadth of Copilot. There obviously is a lot from the Copilot for M365. We try to cover as many of the others, but we want to do it in a bit more intentional way. So we will be putting out a call for speakers for people to kind of talk on specific subjects and capture some of that information. So rather than just catching the latest, to catch people up to where things are now as well. So that would be quite a nice one to tie in with our 1 year anniversary. I hadn't thought about that. I better get off my backside and organise that. Yeah. But that's so good. So we will be back. I think we're going to try and get back onto the 2-week cadence of these things as well. And certainly as September hits, we'll have plenty to talk about at that point as well.
Yeah, definitely. And like I said, I think it will just kind of keep going and the speed will start picking back up again from September. So hopefully you're all ready for what is likely to be a wild ride as we get into the second year, really, of the not from our perspective, not just from our perspective, but the second year of this Copilot journey.
Yeah, I don't think it's just going to show. I don't think it's going to slow down at all as well. And if you want to hear more from us and continue to update that, please subscribe to us, follow on your podcast apps, follow us on LinkedIn and Twitter /X. We're on YouTube. Tell your clients, tell your friends, tell your colleagues, even tell your family to give us a listen on there. And if you're feeling so inclined, please do give us a rating. I know Spotify now has the ability to rate podcasts. So wherever you are, please just drop a rating into there and give us some feedback, and we'll keep an eye on that as well. So please help spread the word. We love it. I know Zoe and I have both had it now where clients have mentioned the podcast and it's like, oh, it's reaching out here. This is fantastic. Quick, put that into the appraisal notes. So yeah, please do spread the word about things as well.
Yeah, 100%. And all that's left to say really is thanks very much for listening, and we look forward to seeing you next time.
Thanks very much. Bye-bye.
Bye.